made no sense, because for some reason I defeated all the crows, but it didn't give me money. So that was really confusing. I thought for sure I'd be able to take advantage of that to get a lot of money, but unfortunately I couldn't. Why does everyone insist on giving Link letters instead of just telling him directly? Like why couldn't the bomb shop owner just explain how the bombs worked and what bombs, rather than just sending him a letter? But yeah, this was pretty confusing. It didn't really work out for me the way I thought it would. And it took a long time to defeat all those crows, too. So, to restore Illy's memory, well, part of that, we gave her a Sheikah statue. Which makes sense, because the Impaz was a Sheikah. What was Impaz supposed to do for food stranded in that hidden village? Eat her cats? Like, she's not even allowed to leave. How long was she there? Like, were the royal family secretly sending her groceries or something? It's not like she had a farm or anything. The same could go for Kakariko Village. How do those people keep getting food? There isn't a farm. Like, in Ocarina of Time, there's a Lon Ranch. I guess the equivalent of that in this game would be the Orden Ranch. I guess that's what's producing everyone's food. But even then, we don't see crops. We just see goats. And that's it. On the balcony and behind windows, the Bulblins are in very stereotypical Wild West locations in the Hidden Village, which is good. Like, it's going for the whole Wild West feeling to it. So it makes sense that they would be in, like, typical locations. Yeah, this was how I eventually got enough money. How was he able to do that anyways? Like, this is supposed to be a cannon that's ancient. Does he have a lot of work? Does he have a lot of, well, I guess he does run a cannon firing shop. How is he repairing the cannon when all he's doing is hitting it alternately with a hammer? Like you think that would damage the thing. That's the kind of cartoon representation of engineering that doesn't really make any sense. Like, with the blacksmith in A Link to the Past, I can understand them hitting stuff with a hammer because it makes sense. Like, you can tell looking at the different equipment in the blacksmith shop, you can get an idea of how they temper swords. Like, they put it in a they put it in a hot area, and then that makes it moldable, and so that's why they hit the sword with their hammer, because now it's hot enough that its shape can be altered, and thus they sharpen it. And then they put it into that bathtub so that they can cool it off. So it makes sense there, but hitting a cannon with a hammer a whole bunch doesn't really make sense. I'm not really sure how he knew where exactly he should point the cannon. Like, sure, it's convenient that when Fires points the cannon in random directions, just so happens to have Link reach a city in the sky. It's like that's another contrived coincidence for Link being able to beat his quest. Like, there's so many different contrived coincidences. Like, the bull still being alive after King Bublin attacks it, and so we can escape a burning building. Or a Twilight bird deciding to betray Zant by letting you fly up Zora's River with it. Okay, like, the problem with the city in the sky is that, sure, it's supposed to be a city, but the thing is that you don't really feel like the Uku are actual people, because they essentially are chickens. Like, aside from the shopkeeper and the Uku you've been helping all game, none of them really talk. So it might as well have just had regular chickens all over the place. But yeah, like, I like the city in the sky. Like, it's a pretty fun dungeon. And this is a pretty interesting sword. Like this is easily the funniest shopkeeper in the game. Because he keeps thinking, why did I invest in stock that Okas can't use? Like, it is pretty, like, he's pretty amusing. Why did he buy stuff that only How did he even get that stuff in the first place? Like, was there someone supplying the Uku with stuff from the Earth? Was it? It couldn't have been Shad. It's also weird how Shad is convinced that we're descended, that the Highlands are descended from the Uku, when the Uku don't look anything like them. And the Uku also bear no resemblance to the Skyloftians. This place also bears no resemblance to Skyloft. It's like the Wind Tribe area that was basically just clouds. Like, every time you go into a high up sky area or sky dungeon in a Zelda game, it looks nothing like Skyloft. So it just makes you wonder what happened to Skyloft in the first place, aside from, like, obviously we saw it crash into the earth at the end of Skyward Sword. But that wasn't the only floating island. So what happened to all the other floating islands? Did they become the islands that... Well, no, because it was explained that the islands in Wind Waker were the peaks of mountain tops. Yeah, I really do like the chicken gimmick. I like how there's always chickens around so you can fly with them. It is very creative of them to base an entire dungeon around flying with the chickens. Something that was only really done sparingly for optional stuff in previous Zelda games. And of course, this is another dungeon that takes advantage of the claw shot. Obviously, you shouldn't be standing on those blue floor tiles. Blue, that's a funny thing. For some reason, I got a graphical glitch on my TV as soon as I turned on the recording software for this dungeon. So as a result, I played the entire dungeon with it looking weird color-wise on my TV. So the blue floor tiles, they didn't look blue at all. And Link looked a lot more blue, and the yellow stuff looked blue. And I think the blue stuff looked red. I thought it looked so cool that I decided to just play through the entire dungeon like that. Like, you should have seen... I wish I could have shown you how pretty the red sky looked. Because of the way that color glitch happened, the sky actually looked red. So that was really cool. And that also happened when I was recording the multiplayer footage again of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. Because the footage got corrupted last time. So, was the spinner a sky invention? Because clearly the city in the sky has architecture designed intentionally with the spinner in mind. So, if the logic behind a Dominion Rod losing powers that spent too much time away from the sky, why didn't the spinner lose power too? I mean, it has to rely on electricity or magic or something to be able to keep spinning and moving forwards. The wind is pretty annoying. It can often send you off the bridge. I don't know why it can't just be a full-blown wall on either side of you rather than having gaps in it that you can get sent through to your death. It's really interesting, exciting watching a speedrun of this dungeon because speedrunners take advantage of the Gale Boomerang a lot in this dungeon. And you have to be really precise about how exactly you use the Gale Boomerang's long jump in the first place. You have to outright plan trajectory. It's not just a matter of throwing the Gale Boomerang and long jump attacking with it. Like, this dungeon gives you a pretty good sense of vertigo, like, as if you're really high up in the sky. This is kind of tedious, like you have to constantly mash the A button to create bridges to progress. I don't know why it can't just be faster or something. But yeah, you need to restore Ilia's memory to be able to use the horse charm. The horse charm came way too late. And that just makes it all more glaring that you can only use it after you restore her memory way late in the game. It should have come before the Master Sword, because by the time you get the Master Sword, you're able to warp wherever you want. And not only that, but you can become a wolf at any time you want to. Which means you move on average faster than the horse. So the horse charm, by the time you're allowed to use it, it's essentially useless. And all this would have been avoided if they had just let you use it the instant that you got it. And you got it before getting the Master Sword. I forget when exactly you get it. The Hidden Village, like, it just has ambience to it, because it's a ghost town and everything. I think it would have been better if it had Western music. Like, by ambience, I mean that when you go to it after the whole Wild West shootout thing, it doesn't have any music to it at all. So that's pretty lame. I think it would have been, like, even Kakariko Village, they bothered to give a theme to. With Hidden Village, it never actually feels like a village, which is ironic as all hell. It doesn't have, like, just like Kakariko Town, you can't repopulate it at all. You can't, there's even a shop there. Even Kakariko Village has a shop to it. And that's just much of a ghost town. Well, not just as much because it has more people in it, but that's about it. And of course these guys come back from Lakebed Temple because I love how enemies can be blown off the edge. Enemies were able to interact with each other much more in Wind Waker. Like you could have enemies attacking each other. Fortunately, you don't have to have the problem anymore where enemies would flop around and you wouldn't be able to attack them. Yeah, you also have to it's good to make sure that you're close enough to the wall. Otherwise, you might end up side jumping to your death. But yeah, that is a speedrunning trick actually. You don't have to deactivate the wind. So you could just keep on side hopping even though you have the iron boots and just get past the wind that way. After doing that though, I was kind of worried that I'd gotten stuck and I didn't know how to progress. But it ended up being fine. But yeah, the weird thing is the song that you play in the Hidden Village, the Howling Stone song, people call it the Ballad of Twilight, but that's only according to fans. They actually were too lazy to give it the official name. There's no official name for it at all. With every other Howling Stone song, it has a name to it because it's a remix of a previous song in the Zelda franchise. I think it would have been really convenient if Uku could always stay with you. It also would have made a lot more sense logically because if it wanted to get back to the city in the sky, and like, you're always going to dungeons that it, for some reason, decides that it should be going to too. So wouldn't it make more sense for Uku to just always stay with you? I mean, I'm not sure how it would work like outside dungeons, because its whole point is to warp you to the outside of a dungeon, and then Uku's kid warps you back into the dungeon to exactly the place that you were at before, which is extremely convenient, and every Zelda game should have that. So I guess you'd have to make it so that the Uku don't do anything outside the dungeons, but are still logically with you. But another thing is that the Uku could read the sky text, so you wouldn't really need Shad at all. Like, well, I think you'd actually be really interested in seeing the Uku. Like, that's another thing is Shad really misses out because you could have brought him an Uku from a dungeon, and he would have been really interested. You would be all over that. I kind of feel sorry for Shad as a scientist because he just narrowly misses so many fascinating scientific discoveries from his perspective. On the sky book that Shad reads out, there's actually Farer's circular symbol on it, which makes sense because Farer is associated with the wind. And this is basically the wind dungeon of the game, only much, much better than the confusing, tedious labyrinth that is the wind temple. Here you don't constantly go back to one room and have to spend 8 billion years going up the same vertical shaft and then getting some very slow-moving Makar to catch up with you. This dungeon is a lot more fun than the Wind Temple is. Obviously, the blue floor tiles will sink when you land on them, and so you gotta move away from them really quickly. They're kind of like the donuts in Yoshi's Island. They're not really that big of a deal, though. These guys will run at you, but if you let go of the spin attack at the right time, you can actually send them toppling into the cliff, which is pretty funny. And this is exactly why these guys suck ass. You might think, oh, just use your hidden skills and you'll be fine. But if you do that, then you're gonna hit its armor anyways. You can just keep backslicing over and over again, and you're still going to end up hitting its armor. This is precisely why the combat in this game is not really working. The enemies overestimate how much you're able to do, considering how limited the combat is. If this was Wind Waker, then I'm sure you would be able to do it much better because the backslice was entirely scripted. Even then, it still got stopped by walls and the sides of enemies, so you weren't able to actually hit your target. But at the very least, it was entirely scripted, so I don't think you would have had a problem where you moved too far with the side jump. I like claw-shotting onto the things and making them get pulled down. But I love this even more. It's really satisfying, like flying towards wind currents with the chickens. It reminds me of, again, the Wind Temple with the Deku Leaf, where you would fly with the Deku Leaf up to exactly these things. I don't really like, though, the way the Uku look, though. I don't know. I think it has something to do with the fact that they're yellow at the bottom of them. If they were real chickens, I think they would look a lot more aesthetically pleasing, especially considering the glaringly obvious fact that they have human heads on a chicken body. See, this is much better than the Deku Leaf in the sense that I hit a wall, but it didn't bounce me backwards. So I was able to just keep flying into that wall and pressing the A button. Now, if Leaf pumping over to a wall and then just pressing the A button to grab onto it, if it was that easy in Wind Waker, I would have had a much easier time making the mini-boss music play, like, for a long time in that one dungeon. But instead you have to time letting go of the Deku Leaf just right, because if you don't, you'll bounce off the wall. It's also convenient how most of the time you can just move towards the wind currents. You don't actually have to fly over to them, and they'll still bring you upwards. But that one didn't, which is really annoying. I think you need to fly up to it because that way you'll be high up enough that you can get to where you want to go. It's also very convenient that you can claw shot these things and get them to you really quickly. I don't think you could do that with the hook shot with the pigs. Like, that's the thing about the hook shot in Wind Waker, is it's basically it's the Ocarina of Time hook shot, except it's much more limited and restricted. I don't think like you can hook shot onto ladders, but the game never tells you that, so that's not really positive. In Ocarina of Time, you could hook shot onto chests, but you can't do that in Wind Waker. And obviously, the hook shot doesn't have nearly as much flexibility as a hook shot in A Link to the Past, where you could hook shot onto pots. Pots! Imagine if you could hook shot onto pots in this game. Like, it would be broken as hell. You'd be able to just see a pot from far away, hook shot over to it, and just skip across pits and entire level design. In the 3D Zeldas, when you hook shot onto a pot, it just breaks it. It doesn't even bring it towards you. But yeah, this is a pretty... I also like how you can claw shot onto those things. Like the bard things. Like, in general, this dungeon makes great use of the claw shot. This is the dungeon that makes the best use of the claw shot in general. In fact, this is the best iteration of the claw shot, the hook shot in general, that's ever been in a 3D Zelda game.